Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, I have a very intriguing video to go and cover with all of you guys. Now, as you guys probably know, the PlayStation 5 is a pretty good piece of hardware. And of course, the PS4 is also somewhat cross-play compatible, like cross-generation compatible. Basically, you have some PS4 games such as like God of War, Horizon, have been interchangeable. We saw some games get PlayStation 5 updates, but you also play a lot of the PS4 games on the PS5. Like, it's kind of a cool, easy, nifty thing. And as well, I'm sure you guys have also seen on the PS Plus that we've been able to go utilize things like PS1 and PS2 games. But there's always been a very peculiar system if you guys are invested in the PlayStation ecosystem, which is the PlayStation 3. Now, you guys might be thinking why, if you guys have never really kind of super heard about it. If I'll try to make it pretty brief, on the idea that the PlayStation 3 is actually a very unique console. It was actually utilized using completely different technology to even base in the comparison to Xbox, and well, no one really knows why. Well, we do kind of know why, because at the time it was like the pinnacle, it was unique. Almost think about the idea of like a Blu-ray player versus a DVD player. It's at that next level, that next jump. But sadly, due to the fact of it like not necessarily being the most focal utilization of them, it kind of made everything in the future hard to utilize, such as using like a PS3 game on the PS5. Now, I'm not the best at explaining this type of stuff, so if I kind of mix words over here, basically the PS3 is very hard to go and make games, like basically port games over or emulate things on over to play on your PS5. Or on PC. It's just kind of almost a forbidden lost technology. And well, at this point, PlayStation kind of regrets it. It's been very hard for them to go and utilize any of those old PlayStation 3 games. And that's why we've also had a lot of remakes and remasters, and of course, a lot of issues with it. But right now, we're actually seeing some pretty big major jumps. That some of these old school PlayStation 3 games actually might be playable, utilizing the PlayStation 5 technology. And of course, PlayStation probably could go maybe flip a few different switches and adjust things up a little bit more based on what we're seeing some other YouTubers who have had a chance to go research and test things on out. So I'm going to go talk about this, talk about the future that the PS3 might actually be relevant, and of course as well, there is a lot of cool PlayStation 3 games out there that I would love to play, port on my PS5, and I'm kind of curious what you think too as well. So a lot of things to go talk about. Give me all your thoughts as they kind of spew on up over here, and make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on for our PS5 Pro giveaway that'll be ending very soon. We also make sure you guys are subscribed to the second YouTube account, the Twitters and Twitch down below to get yourselves all in, and of course all the affiliate links down below, and let's go and dive on into the video itself. So as I mentioned, when it comes to the PlayStation over here, this is going to be kind of a weird one to kind of showcase, but basically the PlayStation 3, this is like high level from AI Google, so just bear with me. But basically uses a unique architecture called Cell, which was developed by Sony, Toshiba, and IBM. And I believe from what I've recognized in this one too, over here, like I said, the Cell's architecture was considered ahead of its time, with some saying it was more like a modern GPU. However, others say it was difficult to use and overshot in power. Basically, the idea behind this was that PlayStation had this kind of unique technology, like I explained, using somewhat like a Blu-ray player, and that was, if it caught on, this would have been goated, would have been great, but sadly it just wasn't the main architecture, and like I said, things got a little bit on the harder side too as well. Now, people have enjoyed it, like people, it was overall a good idea at the time, but not good in the future once you kind of move on. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's kind of a big deal, because that means that this has been so much lost PlayStation 3 games. Games like Infamous and old school, just any type of PS3 game out there, it just is very hard to go play these games. And it's like kind of weird. We've had like a PS Plus, you can kind of sometimes stream certain games, but being able to go and specifically buy games, put them on Steam, put them on PlayStation, like I kind of talked about before, is very hard to do. And this is where things got intriguing, because we actually have a YouTube over here too as well, who had a chance to go and talk about this down below. And I'm going to have the actual official video link down below, obviously, as well for credit, but I'm going to go and kind of play a little bit of a snippet over here. So as I mentioned, because this is in its own unique architecture, it makes things intriguing. Because PlayStation, obviously, if they want to spend $1 billion, they can make this go and work, obviously. But how much money are you going to make from reselling PS3 games? And at the same time, a lot of remakes and remasters would probably make more money too as well, and also somewhat easier to put on PC, etc. And that's where the issue lies. But now people are getting the same exact technology on this, and also somewhat also coding this. It's a little bit of above my pay grade. You guys will probably actually see I'm going to play like a 1-minute schmingman over here, and you guys can understand on, well, how rough this is. But it does apparently mean that PS3 games can be played on the PS5, and it seems like the possibility of this actually could happen maybe even cheaper, quicker, and of course as well a little bit more fun. And this would be a really big update just on the lore that I try to explain to you guys, that just that technology is almost like this weird hidden arc of technology that things don't really make sense on why. So let's go play this on up.
Driver to find whatever single other outdated Linux ISO I could find, and ultimately attempts to bisect the AMD GPU driver.
Right here, I kind of cut like 2 seconds early, but
find
pay attention now. A lot of fancy techie words
in newer kernel versions. To make a long story short, we ended up making a patch to revert a change in the graphics driver that completely broke the PS5 APU in kernel version 6.5, meaning we could finally use.
I know some of these words, and I'm going to kind of preemptively explain this as he kind of goes and kind of does some stuff. Basically shows that there's like an anti-cheat program, basically like allowing you to not have a chance to mess up with the operating system. And this is what a lot of people that try to emulate and try to go and hack your PS5 are kind of into. They want to see the first initial version of the PlayStation itself, because it's technically the weakest with like less updates and less things you have to change. That's why sometimes day one consoles, even like such as the Switch, are usually worth a lot more money, because although it's a very unique niche software. Now over time, let's say it's a year or two. A good example is the PS5. As you guys know, if you guys are invested into the console vibe, there was actually been like 4 different iterations of the PS5 console. We're not talking about like the Slims and Pros. We're talking the normal, at the time, $500 PlayStation got shorter, slimmer. They changed like the heatsink a few different times. At this point, there was a few different versions. Then we went to the Slim, which is the one with the line. Now we have the Pro with the 3 lines out there. So anyway, at that point, that's like version like 5.0 if you count the Slim, if you factor that in. So you have these different kernel programs, which are basically meant to go and prevent emulation, prevent hacking, prevent you basically pirating games, like stealing games from people. And this is where it gets intriguing, because it's also integrating with all of that too as well.
Use a slightly newer Linux LTS 6.6 kernel, along with a patched version of the Mesa package, which is the library that provides implementations of graphics APIs like Vulkan and OpenGL. So if you're savvy with Arch Linux, we have all of our package builds with the...
I pick up a few of these words because I'm kind of a nerd and I try to pick it up, and I have some of my friends that are coders, but I think there's basically just like scheming, recoding, and basically trying to go and say like, hey, can I just make this work with my own knowledge base and the stuff that's out there to see if it works? And it basically does.
Patches we made on the AUR, so make a search for BC250 and you can build those if you have a blade to test with. And with all that finally figured out, I had a pretty cursed blade-shaped PS.
Anyway, the whole idea behind this and why I think it's actually kind of cool to highlight is that he basically just made a PS5. That this is pretty much just a PS5. Okay, just for lack of better terms. And then you could utilize the same technology with it for the PS3. Like, that's the moral of the story, okay? Like, he explained a little bit hardcore for the nerdy people out there, and I respect them, because without them, I don't even know what the hell's going on. Like, these people are building the world, and this guy's making me its own PS3, PS5. Like, I mean, this guy's smart as all hell.
PS5 computer running Linux, and we even went through the effort to install a GameScope session. So, at the risk of sounding like clickbait, I guess I turned my PS5 into a Steam Deck. But what I really wanted to do...
basically, like I said, he's basically using all the technology that basically PlayStation could be using, so it does make this possible. And of course, there has been research, because they do want to get PS3 games on there, and there have been a few PS3 games that have popped on the PS5, just not wide scale. And this is sometimes where I get frustrated, where it kind of reminds me of like a Nintendo vibe, where they could easily probably put like old school Pokemon and easy games on there. Sometimes they do with their Nintendo Plus or whatever, but they can put almost any game out there, like Kirby games or whatever it might be, on their console, and then it's great, it's chill, it's vibey, and you can just play them all up. So it's almost like they could both Nintendo and PlayStation, just do this. Just learn how to do this for everyone, you know?
Figure out how far we can push this hardware to see what exactly a PS5 is theoretically capable of. The very first test I ran on here was actually Minecraft, and it ran perfectly fine. In a single-player survival world, I was getting nearly 300 frames per second average at 1440p once I had generated a few chunks, but...
So I think from all my understanding from all this type too as well...
I have a copy of RPCS 3. The rationale here is that...
from my understanding, and I could be completely fully wrong from all this type of stuff, maybe I'm just stupid, is that due to the fact of them actually, like, the technology for the PS3 should be possible to be ran on the PS5. Like, we also have learned different architectures, we can basically almost reground it, and I just feel like there's a weird crossover of, like, a mixture of, like, emulation where it's not a one-to-one, but it's pretty close there, and we've seen, like, people testing stuff out there. Like, we've actually, I think, I've already seen emulators for the PS3, I think, in the works and or, like, working. Same, funny enough, for the PS5. Now, once again, some of this stuff is a bit above my pay grade, so I may not be presenting this in the best way. But the idea behind this is that I think this technology, when it comes to PS3 games, is possible. We can port these games on over. But will PlayStation want to make this massive jump and do it? It's why not? Like, I feel like they really, if they want to sit down and dedicate like a dev team and get some of the community involved, that too as well, and kind of just like try to get that one spark in their head, we could be playing more PS3 games, not even on like basically through PS Plus or that weird streaming emulation, because that has been a big proper deal. And as well, we've now been seeing people taking in their own hands, such as this lovely YouTube over here right now, showing that you can make this happen, that PS3 games can still be utilized using the very similar technology as well as also kind of do a little baby bit of tinkering. Now, there might be some bigger pictures or maybe some weird PlayStation stuff, or I don't know, maybe this, like I said, this is maybe above my pay grade. So if you guys know more, I'm very curious if you guys want to talk about it. But at the end of the day, like, we can utilize this technology. You can put this stuff out there. And at the same time, even for the PS3 emulation, which in theory, like, I don't think PlayStation wants jailbroken consoles and things breaking at the end of the day, but it does once again kind of show that this technology is kind of like there. Like, we're very, very close, and these people are kind of slowly breaking things apart. So why can't we go play our PS3 games out there? And that's where a lot of people are curious on, and I myself, because I personally would love to have a chance to play these old school games and have them forever. Not only on the PS5, but PS6, PS7. A lot of people like these retro games and even these art styles, because even looking at this with this, you know, it looks nostalgic for me. And I actually don't hate this at the end of the day. Plus old school games too as well that we played on the PS3, while they weren't looking the most beautiful, still have their own stylistic charm and held up somewhat okay at the end of the day. So anyway, it looks like PS3 games are able to be played on the PS5. Just looks like PlayStation needs to go flip that switch and make it happen. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We'll have the actual official video we just were watching in the background too as well. Link down below. He's going to give us some love, subs, and all that. We also do have all the affiliate links down below on top of that. And I appreciate you guys all so much for watching here in the first place.